onset situations, whether we're looking at Sudan, Ukraine, the Syria-Turkey earthquake, and so on. Welcome, everyone. I'm not going to take a lot of time, but I just want to say that Gannett actually started as an internal appetite for the team to do something a little bit fun and experimental. And it's a good, I think, example of when you remove a lot of the bureaucracy of grants and service contracts and you just let people think about what they think might work and what the humanitarian community might need. Some cool stuff come out. And I want to, and I guess now also with the backing of AWS for seed funding and some of our own internal funds and a lot of weekends, we are ready to present the MVP or the prototype of Gannett and really eager to hear your feedback on the tool. Presenting today is Scott, our CTO, Najid, our Chief Product Officer, and Nicola, our Senior Machine Learning Engineer. So really looking forward to an interactive session. So Scott, take it away.
Hello, everybody. Hello, everybody. Welcome. It's great to have you here. So what problem are we trying to solve that we see with Gannett? And really, it's not new. Everybody's used to this problem. We have great difficulty efficiently discovering, retrieving, analyzing, and bringing forth that data in some way that's useful to all of us in the humanitarian sector. And once we get that data, the ability to visualize it, make sure it's trustworthy, make it actionable to workers in the field, that has been elusive to us. And there's a saying that I think about all the time, which is, we are drowned in data, but we are starved for insights. So getting to the point that data is actionable, discoverable in an easy way, and makes the organization agile is the problem that we saw that we wanted to fill with our solution. We'll talk about it in a second. So we're looking at AI and what we might be able to do with AI. Now, AI alone won't solve the issues of the humanitarian domain, right? It has several shortcomings that we need to address. The first and foremost, of course, is bias and hallucination. You're a field worker. You do not want to have an LLM making up data just because you asked it a question. It will always seek to answer your question, even if it is not true. So we want to make sure that we produce authoritative data in a trustworthy way that humanitarians can rely on in a way that they can act immediately. So missing real-time data is also very true. Although LLMs have caught up to where we currently are, there's a gap of about 6 months in most of the current models. Sometimes it's years. We want actionable data that has happened within the last few hours at any individual event or any individual response, again, so teams can be actionable. There's also the lack of domain-specific learning. In the case of these generalized LLMs, they don't know who you are, what you value, why you want to know this information, as it tries to infer for you what is important to you without a knowledge of our domain and the humanitarian principles ingrained into the LLM. It is not going to give you actionable and useful data. And of course, the last bit is all public data. There is no way to get down to closed organizational data or a team's data that has not yet been made public, particularly if it's real time and it's sensitive and you don't want to share it. So you want shareable information that's close to your team, that doesn't suffer from bias or hallucination, and is real time, so you can act immediately and move forward in the field. So our solution to this is an AI humanitarian assistant that we call Gannett. Gannets are birds in the UK that are known to be very voracious. They suck up all of the food and all of the information that they, so this will suck up all the information it can in the humanitarian environment. It ingests everything it can about your work, your response, your crisis that you're facing to make something actionable for you. Gannett itself will be a collaborative work hub. So it's not just an isolated agent to teach you individually, but it's something your team can work with to provide consistent insights across that entire team in a way that lets you coordinate in ways that you couldn't with individual data and feedback. It's a personalized AI assistant. So it remembers the queries that you've given it over time. It becomes to learn about you, what is important to you, how you want to format that data, and makes it actionable quickly. And we're going to merge this with an advanced analytics and visualization tool. So you'll have maps and charts, and it's not just text, but you're getting this qualitative and quantitative data out of it in a way that you can visualize quickly for executive summaries. So why do you care? That's really the question, right? So you can turn days of work, 90% of the into minutes. 90% of the work by an analyst team is done in research and discovery. 10% is done on analysis. We want to flip the script. We want to make sure that 90% of that work is done on analysis and judgment, right, to provide insights. So it's real-time insights across tens of thousands of resources. Humans are great at judgment. AI is excellent at awareness. So to bring that broad awareness that only a machine can do in an instant and get it into a verifiable form that humans can exercise their judgment on. And we want to start not with research, not with what question do we want to ask, but we want to start with insights in a way that makes your team agile. You can adapt to evolving situations. You can become much more responsive and have a higher impact because you can react much more quickly. And then this puts an entire data analytics team in the pocket of every humanitarian. So I want to introduce you to the team behind creating Gannett, one of our NLP engineers, Nico. He's been a superstar in this space, and he'll explain some of the technology behind it.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Hal. Some very quickly in some slide, we try to explain the first thing that we started to develop, and that is this conversational agent. Technically, what we is called retrieval augmented generation model. That is a way, a way for using the new LLM capabilities. We today, probably all of us here play or use tools like ChatGPT or Perplexity or other general platform in their everyday work. And what we want to do is try to extend this technology and just using the language capabilities, but specialize this kind of, let's say, software on the just on humanitarian or humanitarian related data. I want just to explain how we build this and how then it will explain through a demo after me. The first component is the idea of creating a collaborative knowledge hub. So building up a data pipeline that runs every day, every hour, so it's real-time updated, just focus on data we are interested on, so humanitarian or humanitarian related data. The first component is this data ingestion part. The three main part, let's say, sources that we are focused on now is humanitarian information websites. So, of course, Relief Web, but also websites from the UN agencies or local or international NGOs, general websites, so media website using tools like GDELT or different search engines. GDELT is one of probably the biggest media data aggregator, open aggregator in the world, and also guidelines or books or scientific paper, of course, always related with the humanitarian sector or humanitarian topics. And building up a crawler that ingests every hour this data and extract, using some custom libraries, the content of this information, not just the text included in a website, but also, for example, attachments that can be present in a web page, like PDF or images or tables and so on. And all this data create a, let's say, data lake of public raw data repository. After that, we add what we call an ATL job, so extraction, transformation, load jobs. Why we want to do that? Because the first part is just collecting raw information, so text mainly, or images or numbers, and we want to give a structure to this information. Which kind of structure? That we in this MVP focus on three main kind of information. So we want to add some metadata to this text. The first one is geolocate this information. So extract in an automatic way geolocation information from the news or reports and so on. We want to classify this information respect to a event type, a flood, a conflict, a natural disaster, and so on. And then we want to position every document, every sentence in a timeline. So extracting also date information in order to build up a better retrieving and searchable system. This is the starting point of the conversational agent. So every user can, as every one of us can, maybe do with GPT or ChatGPT or other tools, but with the difference that in this case, the question of the user, so the input of the user, is used for retrieving information from the knowledge, the data lake, the knowledge hub that we update every day, every hour, in order to building up an answer more focused and more precise and updated in real time. Just for giving a more detailed, let's say, overview, a closer look into the retrieval system, the query of the user is, let's say, processed in the same way we process the data. So if are explained in the question, an event type is detected in the question, a date, a geolocation, and the same, and we use all this information for retrieving the best, let's say, scoring answer from our knowledge hub, our data lake, in order to build a more contextualized response and answer to the user. This is the first component of our conversational agent, and this allows us to build up a, of course, real-time updated answer to the user. That is not something that can happen in other tools or general tools, and also to avoid problem of hallucination and bias, because the input of the user is extended with real information. So we are not just using the knowledge of a large language models that maybe is trained on generic data, maybe full of biases and so on, but just on selected and reliable sources. This is the first technical component that we want to present today. But now we want also to understand why and for whom we decide to build up this application. So thank you, and Najib, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Nico, and thank you, Scott. So yeah, welcome everyone, and yeah, happy to have you here. So let's have a look on kind of the users, at least. I mean, we have been having different conversations, interviews to identify use cases. I think we all know kind of these different profiles. Of course, we have not included all of them here. These are just some examples. We want Gannett to be, let's say, that solution that somehow democratize access to data as well. So from field officers to country directors, they can just access and start asking questions. As Nico and Scott mentioned, we have been working in the humanitarian sector so far, identified a couple, well, let's say, a good number of sources, and we will have a look at it. And the idea is that from there, we can also see how these different profiles start using the system. And with that, let's say, user in the center of the design, we can keep evolving and iterating the product. So as we see here, each of those profiles, they have different goals, and we have identified these profiles. So yeah, country director, and probably all of you have used ChatGPT, Perplexity, as Nico mentioned, asking for an executive summary or bullet points or those kind of, yeah, very concrete information or insights that from time to time are needed when you are kind of attending, I don't know, a meeting, or you want just to have a brief, a one-pager. So that's kind of how we see the country director interacting with Gannett. We also have emergency coordinators, or let's say those that are kind of, probably analyzing the needs and the gaps from a specific crisis. And then we have field officers that are more into the details, and let's say they also want to have context of what's happening in a certain area or location. We have a couple of questions that we have kind of identified. Of course, this is just a sample. It's an example. They could be different ones, and we will open the conversation just to see how you will use Gannett. We are all very keen to understand how you will see it, how you will interact. Also, what are kind of the flows that you're seeing in ChatGPT, Perplexity, all of these tools, and just to kind of get the sense of what you think Gannett could get for you. Then basically, after identifying these three different, or not these three, but all kind of these user personas, we also kind of think that for them, and also for all of you, it's important that we focus on three main pillars. The first one is to have privacy and security. So we are developing curated the integration of curated data from reliable sources, and also being very rigorous on how we can make authorization and authentication processes into the platform. We will see how it looks like today, but basically we are working right now, and this is the MVP. We are working on the beta version, and we will be extending that invitation to you all today, just to be part of that first step. Then we have fairness and bias, and I think this is kind of a common not issue, but it's something that pops up in the sector a lot, is how we can make sure that we are reducing bias with all these new models or LLMs that are appearing. In Gannett at the moment, we are having these reliable and validated platforms where we are pulling data from, but we are also working in implementing bias techniques. And as Nico was saying, RAG will allow us as well to reduce that hallucination that comes from the current models that are kind of out there. And finally, we are also kind of working towards including those languages that are underserved today in some tools. So that's, and I will just talk a bit about the roadmap as well and those next features that we will have. And finally, explainability and transparency. We also believe that it's important to show every one of you what are the documents and the sources that we are using. So we will see that in a minute, how we are showing in an interactive way the documents that are being part of that RAG system, just for any of you, just to see what are kind of those URLs that we are getting, what are the geolocations, and the sources that we are having in Gannett at the moment. Okay, so let's go and see how the platform looks like. Of course, since this is a kind of not our usual laptops and we need to kind of work everything here, I will just walk you through some pre-questions that we explored just before the session started. But the idea is to give you a sense of how the platform looks like. And sorry, I don't know if it's clear up there, but the from, and this is the home. After you access Gannett, this is what you will find. Probably some of you will say, okay, but this is exactly the same as ChatGPT or Perplexity. And that's right. And there is a reason behind that. Basically, if you create a completely new UI or user interface, the learning curve will take more time for the users just to jump in and kind of feel confident on how they explore the platform. So that's why we make it similar, but we kind of have some let's say, important additions that improve the experience as well. So on the left pan, you will have, as any of these tools, a new thread. Thread is what we call this chat, where you are just asking questions and getting the responses. We'll have explore data that I will just go there in a minute. The idea is that you can explore the data that is being used for the RAG system. And then you will have the history of threads. You are identifying the title of the thread that is automatically assigned, and also the date. In the, let's say, main part, you will have some suggestions as probably ChatGPT or Perplexity are doing right now. But also when you are asking now the question, you will have a set of filters that for us is kind of that way that the user can somehow tailor or customize the search that they are having in Gannett. So you can have filters by country, by date, and by sources. So you can just select a specific time frame, let's say from March, and I will show you in a second why March. Countries, then you can just, for example, go for Sudan. And then for the different sources, let's say we have Relief Web, INGOs, UN agencies, and media. Then after all them are selected, you can just prompt the system and you will get the answer. Let me just go to, I will, after this showing kind of all the UI, I will perform a live demo just to see how it works. So once you ask the question, you will get redirected to this page where basically you have the prompt identified as me at the moment, and then you will get the answer. Main differences, and sorry, I don't know if I can move this, yeah, up here, yeah. So main differences at the right, you will have the filters that you have selected for this specific search. So you have the dates or the time frame of your search, the countries, and the sources. In this case, all of them. The table of contents is something that we also kind of validated with different users and interviews that we had. Probably today you are working on ChatGPT, and after 20 prompts, you need to scroll all the way up to look where is the question that you kind of were or you want to retrieve. Here, what we are doing is as soon as you are kind of building up the conversation with the agent, you can just very easily jump into kind of the question that you were asking. Of course, you are only seeing in the model, you will see only the first letters or the first words of it. But if you kind of hover over, you will have the tooltip with all the questions. So yeah, I think we think is a nice add-on for the interaction with the agent when you are having the kind of long conversations. When you are getting the answer, and let me just get to the answer in a sec, but you are also having a list of sources based on those sources that are being used to generate the response. So depending on the sources that are being reflected on the response, we are bringing the top 4, top 5 most relevant for this. If you click in any of them, you will be automatically redirected to the document. Something important here, and just this is a great example. I mean, some of them, they could be URLs, but as you see here, they are also PDFs. What it means is, as Nico mentioned, we are not only looking at the URLs, for example, in Relief Web, and you have the summary or the executive summary of the document. We are going one step more, which is getting the information out of the attachment and looking at it as well. So we are documenting that in the data lake, and that's what you are getting here. So basically, this response refers or is populated with these documents that are here. Not all of them are PDFs. Some of them are URLs, and you can just access them directly. And then finally, on the response side, you will have also bibliography, which means we are, probably in some interaction with the agent, you will find that some sources are being most or frequently referenced for the responses. The idea here is that the users can have that list of sources and also how many times it has been used, each document. So with that information, basically what we are giving the user is an overview of those sources and also how many times each of them has been used. So yeah, this is how it looks like. We can go in deep with the responses, but basically what we are doing right now, and this is an example for, I'm an emergency coordinator to plan for a response in Gaza. What are the main humanitarian access challenges to provide aid to affected populations? So probably a broad one. And then based on the data provided, here are the main humanitarian access challenges to provide aid to the affected population in Gaza, and then list kind of the different challenges that are facing, and then in summary, and it just ends the prompt. You can continue the conversation here, for example, which borders are open, and then you get very specific information based on that factual data that is being fit into the RAC model. Before just probably going to the live question, let me go to the explore data, because this is what we are talking about when transparency, reliability is kind of one of the main pillars for us. So in this case, what you are getting is an overview of the documents that are being used in the RAG system. We have been pulling, Nico, you correct me if I'm wrong, but we started in March, basically 18th of March, like pulling this big amount of data, or big, quote unquote, is around 200, 300 documents on a daily basis. So far, we have processed 10,600 from 86 different sources in six main categories. Categories being Relief Web, media, UN agencies, NGOs, governments, and also sphere standards. We included the sphere standards, and we also have one example with the sphere standards right here. On a map, you will see kind of the distribution of how those documents are being or the aggregation by country. You can also click if in any of them. So if you want just filter the ones in Sudan, it will just filter out the information, and you will get also the top 15 sources that are being used. As you see right now, Relief Web is a big number for us, 50%, but the idea is that we'll continue adding other sources in time. Then in the second tab, the chart one, you will get the list of documents with the title, published date, the URL, the country that is automatically extracted from the document, and the source. And you can click on any of them, also filter out if you want by date, by filter, by source, and just get a shorter list of these documents. So this is a quick overview of how Gannett looks like today. Let me see if I can, I don't know how to move this Zoom thing, but one sec, let me see if I can do it this, let me see one, for example, I'm a country director, let me ask. And again, this is a demo online, not in, and yeah, let's see if that works. So let's filter for Sudan. Then let's say, because we have 18th of March as the oldest date, but let's say from 1st of March, because, Nico, I think there are some documents prior, before, and then we can select Relief Web or NGOs, UN agencies. Let's go with those three, for example, and then we can go. It will take some time. As of today, around 20 to 30 seconds. We are working hard in improving that speed, or to kind of provide the answer faster. But in the meantime, I mean, we can see here in the filters how they have been applied for this specific search, and the answer should be generated just in a second. And bear with us if it's not working. Yes, but ideally it should work. Okay, and now it's getting the response. So So we said here, based on the data provided, here is a timeline of key events related to the Sudan crisis in the last 2 months, March 7th, May 7th. In March, blah, blah, blah. In April, then facts based on sources. And then you get the sources here, the list of sources. So that's basically, Gannett. I don't know, Nico, Scott, if I'm missing something.
Everyone. Good. I think the key component is the RAG model he keeps talking about. The basics of it is, it says only use these facts to answer the questions and passes it through the LLM. For other enhancements of side things like taking these facts, what does the Sphere handbook say about it? What does the persona of a country director need to know about that? But that's how we keep the facts trustworthy, and we keep the answer digestible and enriched with other standards of awareness about what your work does.
Thank you, Scott. So let me just go over some slides more, because I think it's also important to share what's next. Now I'm lost in this, sorry for that.
And this is an early, I just want to point out as well, while he pulls that up, this is an early prototype. This has been developed in 3 months. So when I say some of the best professionals I've met in my 25+ year career in IT, it's not an exaggeration. We have been able to put up an advanced AI in just 3 months. We have a bunch of additional features we will be aiming at, but this has gotten to the point where it's useful in that short of a time. And with the community's input, I think we can shape this into a tool that has real impact and real use.
Thanks, Scott. So next features and how the roadmap looks like. I'm sorry, we are missing the dates, but yeah, we're working on that just to have conservative on our end as well. Advanced analytics and dashboard. The idea is that when you are generating responses, you are not only getting the text, but also you can get tables or even graphs if the information provided or pulled up from the RAG system allows that. And probably you already saw that in some of these other models. Local data ingestion with data privacy and security measures, as Scott was mentioning, when we are having those interviews and use cases, we see also the need for some organizations to have, let's say, private data or sensitive data that they want to upload. So we can also assure that those users can upload the data and just retrieve the information based on those documents, also having access to the rest of GANET if they want. But users that probably they are not allowed to access this data source or lake, they can be sure that it's not happening. Leveraging GANET for causal reasoning. The idea here is that today we are kind of having the responses, but we are not creating those links between the different kind of even scenarios or moments, let's say, that is happening between the response. So the idea is that we can see also that causality between the response. If we have, I don't know, a document in climate change at some moment and something related with humanitarian response, how we can link that information together as well. Bias mitigation and monitoring, as I mentioned, we are currently working in how we can reduce the bias with all of these systems, and we are exploring different LLMs that are out there to see how it's performing the model and GANET. Predictive capabilities and alerting. The idea is that we can have monitoring of events and at some extent predictive analytics as well inside the platform. Having the Knowledge Hub as a hub and as a service, which basically means we are getting all this data. The idea is that people can also, if they just want to have access to the data, explore it and make use of it. And finally, community building for evaluation and continuous feedback loop, which is basically kind of at the core of any product iteration process, just to have all of you part of the process and kind of provide feedback, and we'll just continue iterating on that. So any other comments on this one?
Doing great.
No, thanks. So just before we end and we have the small activity, I think we can open it for questions. But this is kind of our invitation just for you to join what we call the GANET movement. The idea is that you can sign up, get early access to it. As we mentioned, we'll have this beta testing, and more than welcome. More than happy to receive your feedback, those ideas that you may have, the questions, the features that we would like, the type of data or kind of data that you want to have there as well. All of that will make GANET better and better. So I think that's what we are presenting to you today. And thank you.
Do you have questions?
So there's a meeting session about humanitarian data exchange and their API that's right now. But talking about APIs and scraping like Relief Web and scraping other APIs, like how's it going scraping Relief Web? Are you running into any problems doing that, just to prepare for your project? And how do you anticipate collaborating with them and maybe collaborating with the humanitarian data exchange?
Thank you. Thank you for the question. Do you want to take that one? We already have conversations with Relief Web since the beginning. I mean, since we conceptualized the idea with the team, with Andres, with Miguel, and the idea is that we are collaborating together. Of course, we want to also see what are the advances or the progress from Relief website and how to see we can ease that process of ingesting the information. They even want to have, at some extent, probably GANET embedded into Relief Web. So that's something that we are exploring, and those are conversations that are happening. From the tech side, Nico, how's the experience?
No, of course, the Relief Web has their APIs. So the difference is that we really want to focus in extending the result of the API also with the attachments, because the thing here is that most of information is from there, is from the file. And in the last year, we did some work in this kind of document intelligence side. So in how to extract in a right way, especially for these new LLM technologies, models, and so on. Especially because we know that some of these documents can be very complex with a lot of graphical components and so on. So the idea is, okay, the API, but we want also to manage the rest. So the digital documents that give really the add value really in the information that you can retrieve. So yeah, this is.
Yeah.
Let me add as well. I think we want to establish a data ecosystem. So of course, we started with some of the hard cases. There's so much data sort of lost in PDFs, for lack of a better term, tables that are hard to digest. We wanted to bring those to the surface. But between products like JAWS, which is our data platform, Deep, Activity Info, FreeW, other data sources that might be out there as well, we should be able to consume tabular data through API calls easily. And as LLMs become better at ingesting data, we can add video, we can add imagery, we can create this data ecosystem that should all feed into Gannett. Although we want to make sure that that's authoritative, so there'll be some curation process that we'll have to work out. Again, that's a discussion with the community. And if agencies want to get in here and have private clusters of data, right? So they don't want to share because their joint response is with perhaps someone that they don't want to share the famine status or the security status. We want to make sure that that data is not escaped or jailbroke in any way, that it only comes from the RAG.
Yeah, and just one quick last thing. So I produced the Humanitarian AI Today podcast, and you guys' interview is coming up. But I speak to a lot of interesting tech people, and I have contact with Perplexity AI. And for example, they have their APIs that you can plug into to do different tasks. And for Perplexity, since you're recording this, how do you wish to collaborate with them potentially in the future? Do you have any ideas on ways that you can collaborate with some of these big companies, kind of pushing this sector? And
yeah, so I think the scaled data processing is a big area of opportunity with us with someone like Perplexity. They're really focused on web search and making it real time. So user experiences, sharing that with them, taking some technology best practices for them, because we don't see the value in the baseline technology. We want LLMs to sort of us to rise with LLMs as it develops. We see the value in the closed data sets within the humanitarian community and the domain specific practices that we all engage in that nobody would know. Even close organizations like public safety have a bit of a different mission from humanitarian. So that's where we think the value of it. So practices, technologies that are backing it, APIs, efficiency practices, UI, all that stuff we would love to collaborate with Perplexity or other agencies on. And we want to focus on the value of the data and the humanitarian practices.
Okay, we also have a lot of, oh, wow, there's so many questions. Who would like to go? We also have a lot of questions online as well.
Yeah.
Thank you. So, I'm Tristan from Sphere, so thank you very much. I've sort of worked with a few of you already. I had a few questions, but based on your presentation, I think the one I'll go for is obviously there are costs involved in keeping this kind of system running.
Yeah.
You're going to want to scale up, make it available to people who potentially can't afford to pay for this kind of platform. So how is this going to be financially sustainable?
Yeah, so excellent question. It's been on my mind and I've even lost a little sleep over it. I think, so at first, our business models, we have backing from our partners. So AWS has been an excellent partner with us. So they've helped do some seed funding for this. We've matched that with funding as well of our own time and effort and technology. I think in the short term, attracting other partners who will help ingest more country data sets, or help to pay for access to that for their teams. That's something we'll look at. We'll roll out before the beta credit system. So we'll sign for credits. People will be able to individually buy them. But I think going forward, organizational partnerships that buy access for their members, I think will be one pillar. We would love to reach out to corporate partners or private partners who want to help fund the humanitarian space. So I think we can we tossed around ideas like, could we ask somebody to sponsor 20 relief workers from OCHA or something like that to go to a specific humanitarian disaster, ask them to fund them for 20 months or some period like that. So that's a model we might look at. And additionally, long-term, I think technology partners who, so I'll say this, I'll try to say this quickly. When I look at the 2010s, I think it's a wasted decade. We had all this great technology that came forward, but the way we saw it ruined the way we thought about it. Blockchain is probably the biggest example of that. The first time anybody saw blockchain was somebody trying to sell you something or get your money or do something like that. If instead, the first time we had seen blockchain was to secure logistics to deliver water after their hurricane in Puerto Rico, which is a use case I actually worked on, or something like that. If that in what everybody's mind that had solidified, that's what blockchain is, they wouldn't be so sour on cryptocurrency. But because the crypto bros came out of the woodwork, we all kind of hate it, right? So we have a new opportunity with AI. If we only experience AI as doing robocalls or political ads or anything like that, nobody is going to want to do this, and these corporations know that. But if the first time they see AI is to enhance the release effort in Sudan or Haiti or Gaza or any of the locations in the world, that becomes seated in their mind that, NVIDIA, they do good in the world. AWS does good in the world. This is what they begin to think. So I believe that is a powerful and good pitch to make to our industry partners. I believe they're hungry to fund the right projects, so we'll reach out in that way as well. So sorry to market test my pitch, but that's going to be my pitch.
Can I come in?
I'm gonna follow up the question. This is Serap from Scruples Research. So I just wonder when I think it's on.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just a little bit far. I so like so basically there are problems in funding mechanisms already that you know, like for instance, big donors are coming with agenda and they say these are the projects you can apply, or these are the topics or activities in this country that you can do, etc. This could be the same for corporates, which is much more scary.
Yeah.
I would say. So when they give the funding, for instance, for the system, how will be their access to this data? We know that these governments, they also, like companies, they also have their own agenda, doing investments in these countries. Are they going to use their power through this data to, you know, create difficult situations in these conflict zones? Just wanted to follow up. Have you considered also this possibility?
Absolutely. Okay, sorry, I talk a lot. Yeah, absolutely. I just got done reading a number of case studies of humanitarian, like the Pakistan earthquake and the involvement of military organizations in that. So yeah, so we want to maintain ethical treatment of data within the system, and as well as transparency. So we're not going to give anybody back access to data that they shouldn't have simply because they paid us money. We're not an arm of, and we're neutral, just like we're humanitarian. So we are the principality of neutrality, or the principle of neutrality. So no, we're not going to give any secret access. Public data that might go in, so made available to anybody who uses Gannett. If an organization buys into Gannett and gets access, so they might have access there. But we will develop features where you can keep and mark your data to be confidential. Exactly how that will work out, if we bar certain organizations or not, we have to work out that specifically. But we will respect the user's intent. I think that needs to evolve as a bedrock of AI, both data preparation, but AI LLMs. We have to respect the user's intent for that and not create backdoors into their data, and not create unethical options for them. So half of that will be in the user's hand to make sure that they're marking their data appropriately and sharing it with the appropriate entities. And the other half is to have us as a reliable steward of their data, that they know we'll do data governance policies, we will do audits and transparency reports, but they'll know that we're not providing that to anybody else that wasn't supposed to be provided, and we'll work with parties to make sure that that's assured. So yes, there's no backdoors. We're not selling anybody's data to any organization. We take very seriously, and we've integrated deeply, the humanitarian principles into the application. Yeah.
comment, like,
Please.
it's like also another way that
Sorry.
maybe prevent crime.
Yeah, that is our NLP and machine learning lead. So yeah.
I'm not the,
Yeah.
like, an NLP, the difference. So another way that's because still we're exploring, so also to reduce costs so that it can be affordable. So like we are also like announcing organizations, humanitarian aid development organizations to really to also support like in maintenance of the like the tool so that we can also offer for free the local communities, local organizations. And then like, for example, instead of using closed LLMs, we can also explore open source LLMs and try to make them more affordable. So that's also another like idea that we would like to pursue. So thank you.
Shall we take some online questions? I think people are getting frustrated.
Can I come in?
We're actually going to be going through the chat. So if you've put a question in, please put the question in the chat. But we have quite a few online questions. So for one of the questions is, as veritable unbiased information becomes increasingly hard to find online, how will Gannett detect and avoid misinformation, especially when attempting to gather data as quickly as possible?
Take that one, Nico.
Sì, sì. No, okay. The first thing is that from the beginning, we really tried to, I can't say never miss something, but kind of, in the sense that using this, let's say, not triangulation of different sources, but dividing the kind of sources that we focus on, we really build a automatic pipeline that really, I know that because I'm every day on watching how it perform, what it get, and so on. Pretty much all the news, or let's say flash news that appear in real time. Of course, I can't say that is really real time. It's near to be real time. We don't pretend to have something. It's not. It is always something based on a news or a document that appears on the web. But also using, for example, during my slide, I mentioned the GDELT that really is probably the biggest aggregator of news and is updated not one in an hour, every minute, where we did huge work in understanding this really, we are talking about terabyte of information every day. So yeah, so we try to not, and of course, then the idea is to giving the possibility to extend, if maybe something is missed, to give the possibility to the user to add this information. So if you, okay, I want to extend these knowledge hubs, this lake with other information, you can then extend this manually through the platform. So in trying to, let's say, never miss something.
Sorry, one more thing, and I know the team, Deria, Nico, all of them have been working very hard on processing this data. But one thing is certain is that we need the feedback all of you once they start. You start using the platform just to validate that information that we are providing. I think that's a crucial step that we need to have in mind, because you are the ones kind of working on it every day, and you will be also the ones validating the tool and say, okay, this is reliable data. Of course, we'll make sure as well to include different data sources just to have this diversity included. So yeah, it's something that, of course, we need your help as well. We are not the only ones kind of knowing the truth here, but we want to have you building the tool with us together.
So to follow up on that, one of the other questions is how will you consider future sources to include? And then can quantitative data sets be fed into it?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, actually, that's in the plan. Of course, not easy to process today quantitative data. I think it's a challenge for everyone. LLMs are getting better at it, but still there are some room to be improved. Of course, we don't know what happens in the next 12 to 24 months. Everything can change, but we are open to that. Again, I think the opportunity to bring new data, different sources, also not only the humanitarian sector, but development sector, climate change, others, it's an opportunity, and then probably just have those interactions between the different data sets that we can have. And for quantitative data, I think, yeah, in the coming months, we'll be playing with it or testing, but yeah, it's something that we would foresee having in Ganet as well. And multimodal, I mean, images, audio, video, that's something, and kind of the LLMs are getting to that point. So we just want to offer that as well to the users of Ganet.
Thank you. Should we take one more audience question and then we can come back to the online questions? Yeah, you have had your hand raised.
We're happy to stick around in the hall too if you have questions. We can talk about it. It's all day.
Was good.
Hi there, David Tabner from Caribou Space. I have a question around the interface. I'm doing similar-ish but less sophisticated stuff for European Space Agency, but a very different use case around education around satellite uses in sustainable development. And there's 3 different interface styles we're sort of testing. One, very immersive, sort of virtual reality, Unreal Engine style. One, chat system, and the other voice. And we haven't quite concluded on which is best, because obviously a voice system has its advantages as well. And have you got any ideas about changing the interface design or the delivery channel to voice or other systems?
Yeah, thanks for the question. Yeah, in terms of UI, again, I think feedback from users is key. As soon as we keep iterating the design, and also the idea is that we can somehow see how is the interaction happening, and we'll invite all of you to our booth, and we'll have demos there if you guys want to play, and then that will provide us that feedback that we need. But second, also, yes, we have explored, and 2 weeks ago I was kind of presenting the idea, not the official, because you are the first ones kind of seeing it live, but the idea of Ganet, and yeah, there are some use cases. For example, WhatsApp integration for some community engagement. So we link the API of Ganet. They can ask directly the questions through WhatsApp, even multimodal as well, if you want to recognize voice and send a voice message. And then, yeah, we can work with Ganet to get the answer, again, in the same way back to the user. But yeah, we are exploring those. And you have use cases or you want to chat more about it, yeah, happy to do that. Thank you.
All right, another question from online. The system appears to be primarily based on high-level open source data, with demo use case at country-level analysis. I have 2 questions. Could you specify the smallest administrative level at which the system can still effectively operate? And 2, considering the open source data tends to be less comprehensive at more localized levels, how does this affect the reliability and accuracy of the systems generated at these lower levels?
You want to take that?
Yeah, can you read the first question?
No, I can go for the, yeah, I think in terms of the administrative level, probably the granularity is always back to the data and how the data is built. If we get kind of good information or good data, I mean, we can get the system to perform well. At the end, if they are collecting, let's say, surveys or feedback or evaluations, I think it's something that we can explore. That would be one of the use cases that probably we need to explore more in depth, because yes, today we're having relief work, but probably the data at the granular level or in the field will be probably different formats, or we may need to do something in the data pipeline, but it's something that as soon as we have the data and we can input it to the RAG, I mean, we can take the best of the RAG system and the generative AI part and then provide the answers for that. And that, I think that was the first question. Yeah. Yeah.
No, just to add that in this example, in this MVP, before we saw that we filter, also in the filter, we had these countries, so a very high level, okay, filtering in respect of the geolocation, but actually we already classify all the information at lower level. So it's already more granular, just for, I mean, the purpose of this MVP, we started to manage or search this information in a more, let's say, in a broader way, but actually is something that we are already doing.
No, and just to add, I mean, the technology doesn't really limit granularity too terribly much. It's really two factors. One, how much data has been fed into the system at that granular level, because it can have a context of that. And the other is how well is the user asking a question for the right level of granularity. So if we ingest a lot of data around a house level, data of occupants, health of those occupants, access they have to water and so forth, it can analyze that on that local level as long as the user asks for, within this block or a block radius of this location, give me the number of occupants and their access to water. It can do that if we have lots and lots of data. If they ask a general question of this entire city, it might aggregate some of the data, but if we only have one data point on the aggregate local level, it really wouldn't answer that question effectively. So that's a function of both how much data we have at the granular level and how much the user has refined their question. It's not so much a limit of the technology.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Another one about, yeah, are we running out of time?
Yes.
It's okay.
I think there's still a slide of the next steps or.
No, basically that's the invitation, yeah.
The next step is to contact us.
Yeah.
Oh, I was, do you guys have time for one more question? Does anyone want to?
Can that question be answered quickly?
I'm hoping so. Basically, they want to know if the secondary data provided are usually from local media and social media, or it's from these sources. Are these data included as well from social media and local media? And does it only take into account official sources using English? So I think we kind of answered. Yeah.
No, I don't know. No, I don't know about Twitter and social media. I don't think so, but would you tell us?
Not at the moment.
No, not at the moment.
Yeah.
We have this idea also to include, maybe not for including this kind of social media data in the retrieving part for, reliability thing, but it's something we want to work on. We know that maybe nowadays some of this data is not available anymore, but there are other social media, more open social media that can be used on more, let's say, local information. Actually, it's something that is already present and considered in the platform. Yeah.
As a future feature, that would be an example of, I think something would be good, like a excluded by default data stream. So we might ingest social media, but it's excluded by default because there might be a valid use case where relief workers want to do a sentiment analysis on social media within their area to just gauge public opinion. That might be legitimate use, but we don't want to include that data normally within the humanitarian response. So, yeah.
Great, over to you guys, because I think we're running out of time. So how do you guys want to do?
Yeah.
There is one more, last one.
It's actually just a point of clarification. I thought I heard.
Thank you so much. And it's fascinating to learn about this, particularly the technical stuff about how you build it in the background. Helen from the CDAC network, and we're often very interested in how you ensure meaningful consent and community engagement in your design and participation, all that things. But my question is not about that, although I'm sure you're thinking about all of those things. I wanted to check on your comment about you were maybe moving towards predictive analytics. And I just wanted to, did I hear that correctly? And is that part of the plan? Could you say a little bit more about how you would envisage doing that and what lessons we're learning from some of the other, like, nation states that are building AI models in conflict dynamics at the moment that you're taking on board? Over.
Yeah. I can start. Yeah. So, yeah. Daria, you want to take this one? Yeah.
So yeah, for now, our model is more like information extraction. So like actually, what is the power of the tool is to really detect signals. For example, for conflicts, for like displacements, we can really detect signals, collect signals, and then provide it to also already available predictive models. And also like one of the idea still like maybe in the coming like 6 months in the more long term after having the causal model, causal reasoning inside the system, we can also integrate the quantitative model and for example, either use already available predictive models or develop ourselves. But the most, like for example, most of the predictive models for anticipatory action are based on, like for example, quantitative data, more like climate data or like soil, like more like based on measurable indicators. But the power that we will build is more like from the text data, how we can forecast. How we can forecast to collect them from news, maybe social media, like local communities. And for this, of course, we need local partnerships and data partnerships. So like if you are also like have available networks, also you are available for that, we would be love to include you, engage you. So thank you.
All right. Sorry to end the party. But thank you so much. We'll be around in the hall answering any questions. But yeah, please do take a screenshot and a QR code along and consider some of the ways in which you can join the Gannett community, because absolutely we like to call it you know, it's a community effort, and the idea of Gannett is really to become this public good for the humanitarian sector. So thanks everyone, and sorry to those questions that we did not get to.
And the invitation for everyone just to pass over the DFS booth. And you have
Yes.
the demo there. You can
It's
test.
right as you enter, right? You
Yeah.
can't miss it.
All
Right,
the
right.
QR code
Yeah.
readers. Yeah, right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. And to all the questions that we didn't manage to answer online, we will figure out a way to answer. Yeah, or email us at info@gannett.ai. Thank you everyone for coming and for finding us across the road. Thanks.